Thank you for joining us for part one. I hope you found it valuable. Let's go on to secret number two. Routine alone won't work. It needs flexibility. I'm sure time and time and time again, you've been told that you need a routine. I get that. Some routines are great and very helpful, and I know my son benefited heavily from it. However, you do need some flexibility. Life without a little flexibility gets too rigid and dull, and that begins new problems, right? Especially those seeking some other form of stimulation. So you're told that you need these strict routines, but really, they need to be adaptable and responsive to your child's fluctuating needs. This is a great time to get out a journal. We'll talk about this in a bit and start journaling what you're noticing about your child, what you're noticing about when they're acting a certain way, and build some routines around their behaviors. So, first step is just being a great observer. Observe. But we'll get into these things. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. The balance between structure and flexibility. What is that balance? So, structure is essential for children with ADHD to provide clear expectations and a sense of routine. Flexibility, on the other hand, allows you to adjust activities based on how your child is feeling or performing at a given moment. Parents of children with ADHD often hear that creating strict routines is essential for managing behaviors and focus. While routines are important, the hidden secret is that rigidity can backfire. ADHD children experience fluctuations in energy, attention, and emotional regulations. So you probably have seen that. So a flexible routine that responds to these challenges is far more effective. Flexibility without a structured framework helps both the child and the parent navigate the day to day without the added stress. So, why do people tell you to have routines then if I'm saying flexibility is also good? It's because some children with ADHD can struggle with predictability and transitions, which is why routines are so often recommended. A consistent routine provides them with a sense of security and helps them anticipate what's coming next. However, ADHD also comes with a fluctuating attention spans, emotional ups and downs, and sensory needs. When routines are too rigid, children may feel pressured, overwhelmed, or they might just shut down altogether if they're not in the right mental or physical state to follow through. So you may end up as a parent feeling frustrated or powerless when your child resists these routines, even though they're supposed to be, quote unquote, helpful. The key to success lies in adapting routines to your child's varying needs, allowing for flexibility when their energy levels, mood, or focus demand it. Structure is essential for children with ADHD to provide clear expectations and a sense of routine. Knowing when certain activities occur, like meals, homework, or bedtime, helps reduce anxiety about transitions. However, flexibility allows you to adjust activities based on how your child is feeling or performing at a given moment. This flexibility doesn't mean abandoning the routine, it means recognizing when adjustments are needed to prevent burnout, frustration, or loss of focus. So the goal is to create a routine that adapts to your child's needs without losing that overall structure. For example, a consistent time for after school activities might be maintained, but the type of activity can vary depending on whether your child needs movement, rest, or creative stimulation on a particular day. We'll go into this a bit more, but it's such a powerful eye opener for me when I realized my son was just needing me to not be rigid and this is the way it has to be and this is the way I did it. And once I was able to be a little bit more flexible, he actually, now that he's older, thanks me for it and says, "Oh yeah, you're a cool mom. You actually get me." Ah. Wouldn't we want our kids to say, you get me, you get that I need to have different activities and not always a structured activity. Okay. So let's talk about now some common pitfalls of strict routines, which I kind of was alluding to here, right? That children sometimes feel overwhelmed. If a child is having a particularly high energy or low focus day, expecting them to adhere to a rigid schedule can lead to overwhelm, frustration, even depression, and the dreaded emotional outburst. So, resistance can be another problem. Children may begin to resist the routine altogether. I know my son certainly did. He would just have total meltdowns, and I got it. I had to really listen to him and not to me or what my friends were wanting or what society wanted. I had to listen to him because he would shut down, right? So they would resist routines altogether if they feel it doesn't allow them the flexibility to manage their energy or attention levels. Really letting them have some advocacy for what they need is very important, especially you or a parent that doesn't have ADHD and is not understanding what it's like. It's an insane world. In fact, that should be another issue of our podcast, right? Maybe I'll do another episode what it's like to be in an ADHD brain and mind. I know something as an ADHD adult, my mother never understood for the longest time and would write it off as so many things. And until I started really studying the brain and getting into the brain, did I realize, oh my goodness, I am an ADHD adult. So there we go. But the parental stress. Let's go on to the third one here. When routines are too rigid, parents may become stressed or feel that they're failing their child if their child can adhere to the routines perfectly. Right? Again, getting in their head, understanding what it's like to be an ADHD child or have this brain would really benefit. So there we go. If we don't understand it, leading to power struggles, which constrain that relationship. I know there's some things that have to be done. We have to get to school, unless you're homeschooled. We have to go to the doctors. There are some things that just have to be done, and we can work on that in the workshop or the upcoming larger course that I'm offering. But try these out and see how they work for you and your child. I bet you they will help with a lot of the struggles you're having. All right, let's go over some actionable strategies. I really want to make sure you get some actionable strategies. So, we're going to create flexible routines for success. To avoid the pitfalls that we talked about earlier, parents can create adaptable routines by building flexibility into the structure. So, here's how. Number one, maintain predictable timeframes, not specific activities. So, for example, what I'm saying is keep the general structure of the day consistent, right? Going to school, after school routines, bedtime routines, but allow for a variety in the specific activities based on your child's needs for that day. We talked a little bit about that earlier. It works well because children thrive on predictability, but having some freedom in how they approach tasks helps reduce the pressure of always needing to perform a certain way. So let me give you an example. Let's say after school, your child might need some downtime before homework, right? We have to do homework, but maybe they need downtime. One day, this break might involve jumping on the trampoline. Another day, it could be drawing or playing with Lego. The key is maintaining the after school break as a consistent part of the routine, but varying the activity depending on their energy levels. All right, let's go to number two. Use time blocks, not strict time tables. What that is basically setting general time frames for activities instead of rigid start and end times. It works well because your special child often struggles with transitioning between tasks, and strict time limit can add unnecessary stress. Time blocks give a sense of structure without the pressure of having to switch activities abruptly. Of course, the 5-minute warning, the 10-minute warning, the 2-minute warning, those all work well when they're not overstimulated. What you have to really work, and I know I've gotten the hyper-focus question lately a lot, and I will need to do an episode on hyper-focus as well in my podcast. But when they're not overstimulated, that works really well. This is another way to help them. So let me give you an example though. Instead of scheduling homework, say from 4 to 4:30, it must be done. Designate a flexible time block like homework between 4 and 5. And of course, you've done that other strategy ahead of time, the calm down. This allows for breaks, extra focus time, or longer warm up or calm down, whatever it needs to be, without deviating from the overall plan. It gives the child some autonomy while still ensuring the task gets done. So autonomy is so crucial. I cannot tell you how many times I have been saved in my classroom, even with autonomy, just giving kids an opportunity to speak for themselves. Yes, super important. All right, let's move on to number 3, building in choice time. Choice time, what is that? It really is incorporating periods of routine where your child can choose between 2 or 3 options. I love giving my son options. He feels so empowered. And again, like I said, thanks me for it later. It was amazing. Also, this really works well in my classroom of all ages. I've taught all ages, and choice time, if you give them a choice, of course, of the things, whichever one you let them do is acceptable to you, choice time is an amazing tool in your back pocket. So this works really well because your special child often feels a lack of control, especially when their day is highly structured. Giving them a degree of choice empowers them to make decisions and engage more willingly in activities. They really do engage much more than if you just tell them all the time what they're doing. So, for example, during an evening routine, you might say, okay, we're going to have a choice time where you can choose between playing a game, reading a book, or watching a short video. Having the structure of a routine stay consistent while allowing them to choose the activity helps keep them engaged and motivated. They will pick one of those 3, right? And they will love that option, right? Always choose options that you want, and then they feel so empowered inside of those options. And number 4, adjust expectations based on energy levels. This is really paying attention to your child's energy. This is a great time, as I said earlier, get out that journal. Really pay attention to your child throughout the day, the week, what sets them off, what events, everything. Start jotting down little notes. It can be even on your phone, little notes that help you understand your child and what sets them off or what triggers them or what calms them or what is too overstimulating. Everything, jot it down. In fact, it's another one. I should really do a worksheet for a little tracker on what to look for. So pay attention though, and you know your child by now, unless you're just new to this journey or getting started on knowing, but really focus on what is setting them off, even as we will talk about in my bigger course, the nutrition, sleep. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that could set your child off. I really need to create a worksheet on that, don't I? All right. So many things. I'm so excited to be here for you to support you in any way I can. So pay attention throughout the day and adjusting your expectations accordingly. Your child may have varying levels of focus or physical energy. One day they might be fully engaged and able to complete tasks quickly. Another day they might struggle to get started at all. How many times have you seen those, right? Jot them down. Adjusting your expectations based on how they're feeling reduces frustration for both you and your child. Ooh, creating that happy home. So, for example, in case you need an example, If your child seems tired or unfocused during the normally productive time, instead of pushing through, consider allowing a short movement break or switching to a less demanding task. If they're having a high energy day, you can let them take on more physical activities within the routine. Flexibility shows you're tuned to their needs, and I promise you, they will thank you later. Not only has my son, but with countless students I have done this with and parents that have thanked me for these suggestions. So I'm happy to help if I can. I'm hoping these are helping you. Okay, let's go into the long term benefits. Why am I suggesting these? When you feel when let's go into the long term benefits. Why am I suggesting these? When parents adopt flexible routines, you're giving your child the structure they need when respecting their individuality and fluctuating needs. Over time, you can reduce stress and resistance. Your child will feel more in control and less overwhelmed by the demands of rigid routine. Encourages self regulation. Your child will learn to recognize when they need a break, when they're not able to focus, when they are able to focus, and how to adjust their activities accordingly. This will happen, I promise you. Again, as we talked about before, working on that individuality, right? As they pull away from you, they need to know how to work on these things by themselves. So, encouraging self regulation is a huge, huge milestone, and you will get there. Not overnight, but you will get there. We're improving parent child relationships. So there will be fewer power struggles. Yes, there will be fewer power struggles when the routine is seen as something that supports rather than restricts. The more and more your child feels supported, especially in their teen years, they will have less battles and there will be an understanding between you two, especially because you've been writing this down and noting what's really important, what triggers them in one way or another. I hope that secret was really helpful. Let's go on to number 3, which will be delivered to your email tomorrow. Thank you. See you tomorrow.